I have a theory that probably the first 5 minutes that I'm going to talk here, you won't hear a whole lot of what I'm going to say because you're just kind of looking me over. That's at least the way that I operate when I go and listen to somebody. You don't know me. You know me from, you just the first time you've seen me, you've probably already observed I talk fast, he's a little twitchy, got a lot of gray hair, can't tell if he's young or old. Is he young, is he old? It's kind of confusing. You're like, I think he's locking his knees while he's talking. You're doing that kind of look over. And so I'm fine with that. I'm comfortable with that. So rather than you just starting from scratch, I'd like to give you a head start on that. At least control your inner narrative about me, or try to. I'm surrounded here by friends and my family. My wife's back there in the back. I have friends in this room that I've known for 15, 20 years. My in-laws. I have a lot of people here. In a way, I think that's good because there's no chance of me standing up here and faking it. There's just a huge accountability structure that's built in when you have an audience of people that live with you day in and day out. And I think that the way that my wife or my kids, which are here somewhere, would describe me is that I am always going to be enthusiastic. I'm a passionate person. That's the way that the Lord made me. It doesn't matter if it's talking about the camping trip I was on last week or if it's talking about the big things that the Lord has placed in my heart. I am someone who every time is just going to swing. I swing for the fence literally as hard as I can every pitch. I remember as a little kid, it was a long story. I'm not going to get in the whole thing, but I remember for whatever reason, I was in baseball, and they actually asked. They said, "Tanner, you need to get up and you need to strike out." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? I cannot do that. You want me to purposefully strike out?" It's like, "Yeah, you have to strike out." And my heart just wilted, But I'm the kid. I'm that kid. I'm competitive. I love life. But at the end of the day, I'm very human. Again, for those who know me, I am just like you. I'm a person of flesh, and I am proud of the ministry that I'm a part of. I'm proud of the role that the Lord has put me in. But at the same time, I'm also very aware. I'm very conscious of my own fragility. I know that I wake up every day. I struggle with many of the same things that you do as well. And so I want you to know, if you're gonna try to hack me real quick and you're gonna give me a good look over, I want you to hear is that this guy is going to always bring you his most sincere, authentic version of himself. There's no such thing. You're not gonna get a second Tanner. This is the only Tanner that you're gonna get. I had a long time. I've been on sabbatical since the beginning of April, so I've had a lot of time to actually prepare for this. This is the only actually real public thing that I've done since the beginning of April. So I was actually a little bit nervous. I don't know if I still got the special sauce, but I actually feel like in my heart I have some deep things that I feel like the Lord has impressed upon my heart. And maybe the best way to describe it is that this would be like waypoints on a map for you. As I was preparing, I was thinking about what is it that I would want to convey to you in this conference, in this time. You're going to have so many opportunities to respond to big, broad, missional kind of challenges. You're gonna have opportunities to respond to go to the 1040 window or be a missionary or be wholehearted for the rest of your life or X, Y, and Z. And I am all in on all of those. I was the guy, again, enthusiastic Tanner. I would have been at the front every time signing up. I'm a missionary, I'm a preacher, I'm whatever you need me to be. I'm so jacked to just be a part of what God is doing, and that would have been me. You're gonna have a lot of that this week. And I think it's good. I want you to respond to that. But I felt like in my heart, maybe this is a message that doesn't even make a whole lot of sense today, but in 10 years from now, maybe when you're not in the conference room or you're not here or you've gone on and you're doing something else, maybe it is on the mission field, maybe it's something completely different, maybe you're a stay-at-home mom or maybe you're a businessman, that you would think back to this time you're like, remember that weird stinking guy at Mount Hermon who talked about a couple things, waypoints on a map, a couple things about Jesus, and I hope that some of what I say bounces back to you at that time, and it gives you courage later. Maybe it's courage to some of you today, but I think I'm really aiming for courage later because I think that there's going to be a lot of courage today or throughout this conference, and I want to speak maybe even prophetically into the future. And as I prepared for this time, I think really what I would say is that I really started to contemplate his mission. This is a missions conference. We're talking about missions. And actually, let me see. I think I have a PowerPoint. Let's see if it comes up. Oh, maybe? Oh, I made this in like 10 minutes. So don't judge me. Don't judge me too much. I'm on sabbatical, you guys. Like, I'm not going to do too much work for you. Like, this is it. A white screen with a basic Gotham font. That's all you get from me. That's all you're worth. You'll see, literally every slide is the same. Watch. See, all the same. Just to prepare your expectations before we jump in. I might be the only person who gives you a PowerPoint, though, at this conference. How do you like them apples? So there you go. A little is a lot. Listen, so as I prepared, I want to talk about his mission. And I think sometimes when we talk about his mission, it turns into a conversation about a task. And I think there is a task. There's job. There's work. Anybody who knows me knows I'm a hard worker. I will work hard day after day after day. But when I reflect on his mission, I want to talk more about his desire. And maybe more of a relational language than just a work language as we talk about this. We're going to talk about the 1040 window, or you're going to talk about missions, you're going to talk about going to the ends of the world, hardest and darkest places. All of that is so good, but at 10:53 a.m. on this Tuesday, the 16th, we're going to talk about missions from a relational standpoint. What is it that God is after? First in us, but also in the nations. What is it that the Lord loves? And so this is a really unique way for me to communicate. I've never actually tried this, so good luck to me. That I feel like I have 3 really brief points. They're both, it's almost like 3 homilies. A homily is just like a short little sermon. And they all kind of speak to this, but they might even feel disjointed. I'm usually very linear and sequential, but that's not today. That's not sabbatical Tanner. That's, sabbatical Tanner is really scattered. So I'm going to start. I'm just going to go to 3 stories. I got 3 stories. The first one's a Bible story. The second story, and I'm going to make a point from that. The second story is actually just a story from a lady that's an author. I'll get to that. And the third story is the story that's really personal to me. And I want to make really brief points on each of those. So I'm giving you good prep and heads up. Okay, first story. If you have your Bibles, you can go ahead and open up to Matthew 9. Matthew 9:27. On this sabbatical, I have spent a lot of time just with the Lord in my time of prayer, and I have no clue why this happened, but for some reason, I felt compelled to really actually meditate on stories of Jesus healing the blind. I'm clearly not blind, but I felt like there's something of revelation of the Lord's heart in the way that he treats blind people that I believe that the Lord wanted to speak to me. And so I literally wrote down every story where the Lord healed the blind, and some of them are there's dialogue, and the blind person speaks and has a role, and sometimes it's just generic. There's stories of the crowds bringing the blind before Jesus, and the Lord and Jesus actually laying hands on the blind, and the blind being healed. And so that's been kind of what my meditation has been, at least for part of this sabbatical. And I came across this story actually in that process, and it's really become one of those stories in my life that has really, really anchored me. At age 35, being in the ministry, having a tremendous amount of responsibility, an absolute workaholic, a young family, this simple little story has really reoriented the way that I want to even live my life, even from now, but even into the future. So let me give you a little quick context. Jesus is being Jesus. I mean, he's got his disciples. He's going around. He's healing the sick. Earlier in Matthew 9, a ruler comes to him and says that my daughter has just died. Come lay your hand on her and raise her from the dead, or bring her back to life. So Jesus goes, and he's on a mission. He's going to go heal this young lady that's been, it's assumed that she's dead. He's going to go lay his hand on her, and as he's walking, a woman with the issue of blood sees Jesus from a distance, goes up, brushes against his garment. I mean, she needs Jesus to heal her, and so she brushes up against Jesus' garment. Jesus turns around, says, what on earth are you doing? And that's Tanner's commentary. And Jesus ends up healing this woman with the issue of blood. And it's almost like a distraction. It's like, I'm trying to go heal her, and then, and he's like multitasking healing. he eventually goes and he gets to the woman, the girl that's, again, passed on, or she's assumed dead. Jesus lays hand on her. I want to make sure that I'm right that she's dead. Yeah, she has just died. He shows up to the house. There's flute players. They're having the funeral right there. They're mourning. Jesus shows up, heals the little girl, and then says, hey, shh. I'm looking at 25. Verse 9:25 says, but when the crowd had been put outside, he went in and took her by the hand, and the girl rose. And the report went throughout all the district. Every Home for Christ, the ministry that I work for, is a ministry that's committed to reaching every home on the earth with the gospel in the next 20 years. Big, audacious goal. This story jacks me up because Jesus lays hands on one little girl, heals her, brings her back from the dead, and now it says the entire district knows about Jesus. What a story. What a mission strategy. Then the next story, which I'm going to come to, is a story about a couple blind guys, and same thing. It's a mission story. You're going to see there's a missional application to this story. Then Jesus runs into a demoniac and ends up healing the demoniac, and then the famous story about the harvest is plentiful and the laborers are few. So this is kind of the general flow of the story that I'm going to tell you about. But right now, so he's just healed the girl, right? That's the little girl that has died. He's raised her from the dead, and he's walking down the road. And in verse 27, it says, as Jesus passed on from there, 2 blind men followed him, crying aloud, have mercy on us, son of David. When he entered the house, the blind men came to him, and Jesus said to him, do you believe that I'm able to do this? They said to him, yes, Lord. Then he touched their eyes, saying, according to your faith, it will be done to you. And their eyes were opened. And Jesus sternly warned them, see that no one knows about it. But when they went away and spread his fame throughout the entire district. I was joking in my notes. I was thinking how funny. That should be a new mission slogan. Don't tell anyone about it. Because he says, don't tell anyone about it. And the next line is, but they went away and spread his fame throughout the entire district. That's in every Home for Christ verse. I love that verse. Entire districts hear about Jesus. Every person in a geographic area all of a sudden is acquainted with the person of Christ because he said, don't tell anybody. I love it. Next year, let's make sure to say, don't tell anybody. And we're going to reach the whole world. So I want to go through this story really quick. And I want to actually give good time to this because it's a crazy story. Jesus is walking down the road. 2 blind guys. I don't know if they're friends or not, but in that culture, if you're blind, you're definitely destitute. They're sitting on the side of the road. They hear some noise in the distance. Oh, it's Jesus. Jesus is coming. Oh, have you heard about Jesus? There's a prophecy that there's a Messiah that's going to come. He's going to heal the blind. That's us. We're the blind. These guys are beggars day after day after day. This is their entire existence. They can't get up. They can't go get a job. They can't they can't be self-dependent. They have no sight. And so when they hear that, the weight of Jesus' reputation matches the weight of their desperation. And they said, we got to get up. We got to follow this man. What I think is crazy about this story is Jesus doesn't stop. It's crazy to me. You've got, Jesus is walking, let's say he's got his posse around him. They're walking down the road, and 2 blind guys, they're blind, are following Jesus. Blind guys. 2 blind guys are following Jesus. What does that even look like? They're running into each other? They're like, hey, do you know where we're going? I don't know where we're going. I can't see. I can't see either, man. I think I hear him up there. Let's just keep following. I think he's over there. And Jesus has he has every capacity to just stop like he does so many other times and lay his hands on these guys and let them be. Let them go out and go back to normal life with eyesight and everything. Jesus doesn't stop. And these 2 blind guys follow Jesus until it says that Jesus came to a house and he goes into the house. Again, 2 blind guys following Jesus down the road. And they come up to a door. They have to get in the house. Hey, do you guys know? Does anybody know where Jesus went? Jesus in the house. Where's the house? It's a crazy story to think about. And again, it actually a little agitates me because it's Jesus, you could have just stopped. Why are you making these guys this whole process of getting up off the mat, off the side of the road to follow you? And then they have to get in the house. And it's not until they get in the house in the story, it says, when he entered the house, the blind man came to him, and Jesus said, do you believe that I'm able to do this? Again, this kind of when I, as a human, a 35-year-old, talks too fast, Tanner Peake, reads this story, I'm like, come on, Lord, enough of the rhetorical questions. If these guys didn't believe that if they didn't believe that you had the capacity to heal them, why on earth would they crawl their way down the road as a couple blind guys to come to meet you? Of course they believe you can heal them. Of course they can. But I think there's something even in so many stories of Jesus healing the blind. I mean, and I don't want to say every story of him healing the blind that's mentioned, so many of them, there's this, do you believe I can do this? The other thing I want to just bring attention to, I kind of glossed over it. They're following him down the road this whole time, screaming, Son of David, have mercy! I mean, Son of David! Again, it's a little annoying to me. Jesus, can't you hear that? Are you deaf? It's like in the prayer room with his earbuds in or something. He can't hear. Like, what's the deal? Is it too loud? I don't know. Anyway, so he goes in, and they're now in the house. These radical blind guys, they come in. He says, do you believe that I can do this? And they say, yes, Lord. And then I love this. Jesus, I don't know what this looks like, but Jesus comes up to them with fingerprints. Like, I got fingerprints. You have fingerprints. Jesus was in a human body, and he had thumbprints. He had fingerprints. And he comes, and the most intimate, vulnerable place for a blind person is their eyes. I mean, this is their pain. This is their destitution. This is why they don't have money. This is why they beg on the side of the road. It's because these don't work. They can't see. They're dysfunctional. And Jesus comes up with human finger and puts his thumbs on their eyes and heals them. Did you know a lot of stories, he puts his fingers on their eyes? Not all of them, though. I have no clue why. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he uses mud, sometimes he doesn't. The stories are all different, but in this particular story, these two blind guys crying out, Son of David, have mercy. They finally get close enough, and the God of the universe, it says he breathed and universe exists. He breathes and the Milky Way floats in air or whatever. It exists. He breathes. That God has fingerprints. He puts them on the most vulnerable place of a blind man, on their eyes, and they're healed. Bam! That's crazy. It's crazy in so many ways. Like, I can't get stuck in this, like, I will fall in a hole and not get out. That's crazy. It's crazy that these blind guys were vulnerable enough to let Jesus do that. I was meditating on this. The first time I was meditating on this, and I was coming to the Lord, and with my shame and my own pain, imagining that that's the equivalent of my blind eyes. Lord, pain in my heart. Would you come and put your thumbprint on my shame? Would you come and put your thumbprint on my trauma? Would you come and put your thumbprint on my depression? Lord, would you come and put your thumbprint on it? And you know what came to my mind? Jesus putting his thumbs through my eyeballs. That sounds crazy, but that's because that's pain. That's what we immediately think. Who is safe with my pain? That question, who is safe with your pain, is maybe the only question that really matters. I mean, a lot of other questions matter, but that is a significant question in your discipleship walk. Who do you believe is safe with your pain? And from that place, I was realizing, I don't think that Jesus can handle my depression. I don't think he really wants to heal me. I don't think I want to be that close to him. I want to keep a little arm's distance between me and Jesus. But in this story, these blind guys, they shot right through that. I don't care. He could poke my eyes out anyway. I'm all in. Like, he's going to heal my eyes. Anyway, so Jesus heals their eyes. And then, like I said, what's crazy about this story, what's absolutely insane to me, he goes, hey, these guys now can see. First time in their life. We assume, we don't know. Maybe it's the first time in their life that they can see. They're sitting in a house with all these random people that they've never seen before. They're looking Jesus, the God of the universe, in the eyeballs. They're sitting there for the first time being able to see. And he goes, hey, listen, just between you guys, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody this just happened. Right. Good one. Like, Jesus, I can see. Don't you understand? I can see. And it says the entire district knew about Jesus. I was with my dad. My dad has chronic health problems. And I was with him on the sabbatical. I was with him in May. He was having really severe issues and all this stuff. But I'm sitting with my dad, and he lives in southeast Idaho. And I'm sitting with my dad, and I said, Dad, I bet the entire Treasure Valley, which is the area around Boise, Idaho, I said, I bet if the Lord came and healed your back, tell me that you wouldn't become an evangelist. Tell me. If he really healed your back, tell me you wouldn't become an evangelist. And he in tears because the Lord hasn't healed him. He said, absolutely. That's the craziness about this story, is that Jesus' mission strategy was fingerprints on eyeballs, fingerprints on most vulnerable places of these blind men's lives. I have a very simple point from this story. There's so many things I love about this story. One, I think you already can tell, I self-identify with the blind. I do personally. That I don't believe that I'm like seeing, you know, I don't see myself as a minister of the gospel and I have it all figured out. I actually feel mostly like those blind guys stumbling down the road going, Son of David! Jess, do you know where he is? My friends, my wife looking around saying, does anybody know? We're all blind. Does anybody know? I just want to touch him. I'm terrified of him, but I need him. It's all I have. He's my only chance. I identify personally as someone even in leadership that would be so tempting to start to take your job description or your title or your function in the kingdom of God and start to equate that to sight. That is not sight. That is an opportunity, actually, if anything, opportunity for pride. I think that God wants to use me, blah, 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 blah. I get that. I don't need that. I know that I actually know at the core, at my depth, that in my heart, I need more of him. So my first little point is beware of your desperate situation. At any cost, lay hold of Jesus. This is absolute priority. Missions are only as effective as your diligence to be honest about who you are, your need, and Jesus' ability to heal you. Listen, in a room of this size, there is a significant portion of you that struggle with chronic depression. In a room this size, I don't know how many, I'm not gonna even try, many of you thought about taking your life last year. In a room this size, many of you struggle with sexual addiction. In a room this size, there's some of you that have chronic anxiety. Listen, people, why do we act like we don't have problems? Like we are blind people. Tanner, Peake, and all y'all, we're in the same category. We need Jesus. We do not need to be hyped up to the degree that we cannot acknowledge our need for Jesus. That is not the gospel. The gospel is a gospel of humility. It's a gospel that, listen, he's my only chance. He's my Hail Mary into the back of the end zone. Jesus is all you have. If you don't have him, if you don't lay hold of him, you have nothing. You could go and give the rest of your life to some foreign mission field, hoping that it would fill that hole that Pascal said, that God-shaped hole inside your heart. You could go to the ends of the earth. You could go live in Mecca. And you know what? There is only one thing that will fill the God-shaped hole in your heart. You know what that is? God. It's an obvious answer. It's a God-shaped hole. It's not a mission-shaped hole. The biggest pressing need for our generation is people courageous enough to let Jesus put his thumbs on our eyeballs, on the point of our biggest vulnerability, to be brave enough to show up and say, Lord, I haven't figured it out. I'm 35, I have a big title, but listen, I need you now more than I've ever have in my entire life. I do not have the mission strategy. I have not figured it out. I don't have a cornered the market on that. Oikos Initiative is great, but Lord, more than the Oikos Initiative, know what I want? Whew. Gives me just talking about it makes me visceral. Lord, I need you in my silence place, my quiet place, away from the public stage, not with a guitar in my hand, just me and you. I want to believe that you love me enough that you would touch my eyes and that you would deal with my shame. That you would love me and you tell me that I'm enough right there. Everybody wants to tell me enough when I'm right here. Everybody can acknowledge, you're great, man. But what about in my quiet chair in my guest room at home when I have my Bible in front of me? Do I believe I'm enough before the Lord? Am I willing to let him come close? So my point is pretty clear there. Check your ego at the door. We all need Jesus. Be wary, I would say this as well. Be wary of any leader that isn't actively stumbling down the road after Jesus crying out for personal mercy. If your leader is not openly in front of you, acknowledging their own need for mercy, I would distrust them. Maybe that's said like a cynic. But listen, it doesn't matter if you're Billy Graham, it doesn't matter who you are. The Apostle Paul, listen, the gospel is about us being in need and a God, that only a God can fill that need. There is nothing about a leader. There's not anything in a leader's job description that says all of a sudden you can't be vulnerable anymore and you don't need mercy. There's nothing in their job description. So I would tell you, be wary of people of a community that isn't actively stumbling down the road crying out for mercy. My last little asterisk to this point, it's become subtly vogue to carry actually an elitist mentality, even regarding the calling of foreign missions. Guys, I'm not a foreign mission, but if I'm not a missionary, then what am I? I mean, like, I am a missionary day after day. I am laboring for the advancement of the gospel in 150 countries, 175 offices. We saw 131 million homes, families encountered with the gospel last year. I am a missionary. Listen, as a missionary, not as an outsider, as a missionary myself, I can tell you there's a temptation for us in ministry to start to see different classifications in society. There's like the missionaries who are like the hardcore, and then even within that category, there's like the 1040 window missionaries, which is like the super hardcore. It's like Delta Force missionaries. Then there's the next level down. There's like next level down like missionaries, and we start to subtly make these classifications of missions and of Christians. Can I just tell you, that is arrogant. That is not the heart of God. Like, nowhere in the gospel do you see, or in the New Testament, do you see there being a pride. Now, I think there's a distinction, a pride, though, a spiritual pride about the calling that God gave you. Paul was clear. There's people called the Jews. There's people called the Gentiles. We have the right hand of fellowship. But listen, if you're going home as a young person, you're going home and you're guilting your family into foreign missions, that is not the heart of Jesus, period. That is not the heart of Jesus. I'm saying it so loud and so clear. Again, that's indicative, though, maybe of less than a social, more than just a social trend. It's indicative that we don't actually see that we're like the blind men walking down the street. We have not achieved. We have not arrived. We need Jesus day after day after day after day. That's why I like Zach's song. Day after day, daily. We need the Lord to encounter us and to put his fingers on your eyes. So let's not fall into the hole of spiritual pride, even with our own calling as missionaries. All right, that's my first point. Reset now. Second point, because they don't really build on each other. They're generally related. I want to tell you a story that's really impacted me during this time by a lady named Flannery O'Connor. Does anybody know who Flannery O'Connor is? Yeah, there we go. One person. Come on, all the rest of you guys are missing out. She's not necessarily, I wouldn't say she's a Christian author, but she has a religious background. She tells a story in one of her older books, and the story is called The Turkey. Has anybody ever heard this story? Oh, good for you. Then lucky me, I get to make it up. No, lucky me, I get to convey this story. Okay, this story is actually about a young boy named Ruler, okay? Ruler is, in this story, Ruler is out, and he's out in the woods, and he's trying to hunt down a turkey. Any of you here turkey hunt ever? Got a couple turkey hunters. So he's an 11-year-old boy, and the story is all written, if you read this, is all written in the first person. And the story is Ruler trying to catch this turkey. And so he goes out, he's in the woods, and he sees this turkey that clearly somebody else has shot, but he's hoping that he gets to harvest, that he actually gets to go grab before somebody else grabs it. And so Ruler's out in the woods, and it's his consciousness. So it's 11-year-old. It's written so brilliantly from the standpoint of 11-year-olds. It's kind of scattered thoughts. And he's pursuing this turkey, and as he's pursuing this turkey to go trying to find it, it's kind of going in and out of the bushes, he starts to think about how big of a deal it will be when everybody knows that he caught this turkey. So he starts to think, what will the minister start to think about me? I come back into town, 10-pound turkey on my shoulder, walking down the road. They're going to be like, oh, look at Ruler. Ruler's amazing. He's got the turkey. He starts to think about his siblings. And you can tell from even his consciousness, there's a little bit of you can tell, it's like all of our families. Like he's kind of not the loved kid. He's like the kid who's like, there's Ruler, It's like, we love Jimmy, but there's Ruler over here. You can feel that. So he's really proud. He wants to go back and show, go back and show his family that he's got this big turkey, he starts to think about the townspeople. He starts to think about all of these demographics of people and what it will actually be like when they realize that ruler has caught this turkey. And then in the process, he starts to tell a story about how one night, real late, ruler was up, and he hears his parents in the other room, and they're talking about ruler. And he overhears them he overhears the conversation between the mom and dad, and the mom and the dad are saying, what's wrong with ruler? He just seems like a weird kid. It doesn't seem like he's going to amount to much. He plays by himself. He's just kind of overall inadequate as a child. And ruler hears this conversation and is just devastated. He's so broken. And so as he's out there looking for the turkey, he's thinking about this conversation. Man, maybe this will prove to my dad. Maybe it's going to prove to my dad that I'm a good kid. I really am. I'm a uniquely good kid. I'm worth being loved uniquely. So as the story goes on, he actually loses the turkey. The turkey's going in and out, and he loses the turkey. And all of these, his line of consciousness just literally directly changes. And all of a sudden, he starts to curse God. He thinks about all of the things that he's learned about religion, about that his grandma has taught him. Not to cuss, not to think bad thoughts, not to steal, all these things. And he starts to say, you know what? Maybe I'm just going to be bad. You know, God doesn't even care enough to let me catch this turkey. So he starts to cuss, and it's like the best. It's like not even cussing, it's not, in the book, it's like, that's a cuss word. It's just like 11-year-old boy's conscious, and he's going, maybe I'm supposed to be a thief. Maybe the rest of my life I'm going to steal things because I can't catch this turkey. God obviously doesn't care about me. I'm going to just go off and be the worst kid that I possibly can. And then in the story, he's having all of these negative thoughts, and he's thinking about how he's going to live his rest of his life as a criminal. And then all of a sudden, the turkey literally just plops out in front of him out of a bush. And he goes, oh my goodness, the Lord is with me. Oh my goodness, it's like God must really love me. He knew that I was about to become a criminal. He knew that I was about to slide into forms of debauchery, and he's mercifully sent this turkey to show me that he loves me so, so, so much. And so then his consciousness changes, and he goes, wow, God must really love me. I really am so incredibly lovable. I'm the most lovable person out there. And he starts to go, man, maybe I'm supposed to be called to be a minister. I think I'm supposed to be called to be a preacher. This turkey proves I'm supposed to be a preacher. And then he goes on, I'm not doing it justice. Like the way that this is written is so beautiful and so eloquent. But then he starts to think, I need to repay God. I got to pay him back for giving me this turkey. And so he grabs the turkey, he throws the turkey on his shoulder, and he walks into town. And sure enough, as he gets into town, everybody's going, wow, ruler, nice turkey, man. And he's just gloating with pride. All the while he's thinking, man, I really got to think about how to pay God back. Reaches in his pocket and realizes he's got a dime that his grandma's given him as his only dime. And he says, wow, I need to figure out, I'm going to give this dime away. I want to give this dime away to a homeless person or to a beggar. So he's walking down the street and he starts to pray, Lord, would you just send me a beggar? You can send me a turkey. Can you send me a beggar as well? So I could give away my last dime and I can repay you, God. And he keeps walking. People are affirming him. And sure enough, just as he's about to leave town, out pops a beggar. Reaches deep into his pocket, grabs the dime, gives the dime to the beggar, goes off, chest puffed out, feeling really good about himself. Got this turkey. I'm going to be a minister of the gospel. I'm feeling pretty good about myself, all because of this turkey. And then some boys come up to him. Some boys from the town come up to him and say, ruler, nice turkey. And he's feeling good about himself. They come up and he goes, do you want to hold my turkey? They go, yeah, that looks like a huge turkey. He hands him the turkey. And just then, just in a wink of an eye or a blink of an eye, these young boys run off with this turkey. And in the story, I'm going to try to actually read it because it'll say it so much better. It says, ruler didn't move, paralyzed by the event. Then, slowly, he turned towards home, almost creeping. He walked 4 blocks, and then suddenly, noticing that it was dark, he began to run. He ran faster and faster, and as he turned up the road to his house, his heart was running as fast as his legs, and he was certain that something awful was tearing behind him with his arms rigid and his fingers ready to clutch. That's the story of a little boy and his lost turkey. Now, this story, I guess, on its face might not mean anything to you, but I want to make one really central point to this. This isn't really a story about a turkey. It's a story about a boy and his dad. The turkey kind of ends up taking the central piece here. But really what's actually going on is you have a little boy who's uncertain, insecure about how much his dad actually loves him. And because of that, this turkey takes on really like a cosmic importance to him. It's so important to him that his entire moods, his entire consciousness is changing, is shifting back and forth based on whether or not he has, and he's in his possession, this turkey. You and I aren't so different than this boy. On any given day, we bless and we curse God. We say, I'm lost in one moment, and then the next we say, maybe I'm a missionary. Can anybody else relate to that? You know, one moment you're like, I think I'm chronically depressed. And then you're like, I will save Saudi Arabia. At least I can relate to that. Maybe I'm the only moody person here. When we have the turkey, we can't help but feel that we owe God our very best. We give him our last dime, and then like this boy, we find that the turkey actually evades us. Life takes it away. What happens is our leaders fail. We struggle with disillusionment. You know, you start to, Axe fails you, Brian fails you, Lou fails you, Tanner hurts you. That guy said the wrong thing. My person next to me said the thing. I mean, life has so many opportunities for that turkey to actually be ripped violently from your hands. We struggle with the big whys of life. You know, someone in your family gets sick and your life has changed. And in a moment we go from being confident in God to feeling like we are forsaken. I can't tell you how many times that's me. So I'm not saying that as a, man, you're crazy. How could you be like this? That's Tanner Peake. I have actually been like a little boy running home, eyes closed, tears running down my face, thinking something's actually chasing me. God is forsaking me. Where did he go? Where did God go? You know, Lord, why didn't you heal my dad? What's the deal? You must hate me. I'm out. Peace out, God. That's, I think, for more of us than we'd like to admit, that is a very active, or that process is playing out day after day after day. Can I frame a very simple point for you? This story is just about the boy and his dad. And can I suggest actually that this entire story would be understood differently if the little boy actually was confident when he was out turkey hunting, that he was confident that his dad actually loved him. Now all of a sudden that turkey doesn't have cosmic significance. The turkey can come, the turkey can go, it's still a gift from God. But the entire story pivots. The entire plot line, the entire narrative changes if just the little boy knows that when he runs home, that there's a dad that loves him. There's still pain. There's still disillusionment. All of those things are just natural in a fallen dispensation that we live in. But do you know if when we are secure in the Father's love, there is enough grace in his heart. His arms are wide enough. He's gentle enough. He's kind enough to embrace us securely when we run back home. And so that would be my second point. If you're called to missions, if you're a human being and you're trying to follow Jesus, let me say it better. If you're a human being and you're following Jesus, you're going to need to run home. And as you do, be secure knowing that you have a Father at home who says that you're good enough. Listen, especially, I know that there's missionaries here, people that have been to the field, and maybe you're back and you're just on a break. You know this from firsthand experience. That turkey's probably been yanked from your hand 100 times already. I mean, every day you're getting the turkey and the turkey's running away. You haven't seen someone saved for 5 years. Heavens feel like brass. The prayer meeting stinks. You're tired. You're depressed. You don't know what you're doing and why you're doing it. Listen, I'm not telling you that that's going to go away, but what I can tell you is that there's a Father that when you do feel tired and that when you do feel sick or you do feel disillusioned, he's safe enough that you don't have to emotionally disconnect. He's safe enough that when you're in your pain, he's safe enough that when you're in your failure, he's safe enough when the turkey evades you that you can actually go to him and he's actually going to embrace you and you don't have to be confused of where he's at. That's my second point. Third story. I can't tell if I'm going long or short. It doesn't really matter because I'm going to do what I'm going to do anyway. Third story. All right, this one's a personal story to me. I told you I was going to give you three: a Bible story, somebody else's story, and then this is my story. So I've been on sabbatical. The way that I rest is usually pretty active. I got to burn energy. I'm pretty wound up all the time, and I get pretty excited. So this whole time I've been biking quite a bit, cycling, like road cycling and mountain biking a little bit as well, but really cycling. And I had this whole sabbatical, I had told myself, I want to go on a long ride. And I wanted that for a lot of reasons. I wanted to get out on the road. I wanted to be by myself and my thoughts. I just wanted to be alone with God, but I wanted to be moving my body. That's just my temperament. And so my wife knows this. She can attest to this. My girls can attest to this as well. Man, when I get something in my head like that, I'm going to do it, and I plan it. I'm not like an overly detailed person. I wouldn't say that. But when I'm obsessed with something, then I get a little bit detail-oriented. And so I wanted to go. I had planned this out. I'm gonna bike from this town to this next town. It's about 88-mile ride. And I looked at everything. I knew the elevation profile. I knew that on this route, I was going to go over a huge mountain pass, and then I'd have about 65 miles of riding and, on straight ground, on relatively flat ground. I was excited. I could, if I woke up early enough, I'd plan it all out. If I woke up early enough, there wouldn't be a lot of traffic. The sun wouldn't be out. The likelihood that there'd be crosswinds. I'd planned this out so detailed, you guys. I knew, I'm going to go to this gas station. I'm going to get water there. I'm going to re-up on my food here. I'm going to take a break here. I got this many. I'm going to use this energy gel here. I'm going to use this thing over here. I'm going to have the granola bar there. I had planned it out. I had an extra chain, an extra tube. The amount of OCD-ness of Tanner Peake when I get something in my head like that is insane. And my wife would know this. I get over the top. I'm buying new gear. I'm just day and night thinking about this. And so I go out and I planned it out. I was going to camp. I ended up camping. I was going to camp because I wanted to wake up at about 4, and I wanted to start my route at about 4:30 because I wanted it to be out before the sun rose up. It wouldn't be so hot, all that. So I go camp. I lay out my tarp. And it's about 7:30 when I get there. I lay out my tarp, inflate my sleeping pad, get my sleeping bag on the ground. I've got everything dialed in. The back of my car is like a bike shop. I have it in little piles. I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it in here. And so I decide I need to get to bed early because I have a big, huge day tomorrow. I'm going to burn a lot of calories. So I get in my sleeping bag. It's 8 o'clock. It's first of all, it's like mosquito land. So I'm covering my face. It was just miserable. But I'm laying in my sleeping bag. And I just got to go to sleep. And this is just how crazy I get so obsessed. I cannot sleep. It doesn't matter what I do. I think I could have OD'd on sleep meds, and I still wouldn't have been able to sleep. My mind, I'm so excited because this to me is like the apex of life. When you get to go out, you push your body, it's psychologically demanding. And I'm just going through every scenario in my mind. Just imagine me, mosquitoes all over me. At 8 o'clock, it's still light out. I'm laying in my sleeping bag on a tarp, just looking up at the sky, and I'm thinking, I'm going through, again, everything that I've planned. Okay, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I'm thinking, okay, what happens if this goes wrong? If I break this, I'm not going to do this. I'm going through contingency plans on contingency plans. I'm like, okay, first level contingency plan. If this happens, this happens. I cannot sleep. I'm obsessed. So I did that for 4 hours, you guys. I'm laying in this stupid mosquito. It's hot. I'm in a hot sleeping bag, mosquitoes on my face, thinking about my ride. I'm just so obsessed. The stars came out. I'm still sitting there thinking, I cannot believe I'm awake. So I finally go to sleep. It's about midnight. I wake up at 4, and I go through my routine. I had this so planned out, you guys. I'm going to get up. I got to put the sunscreen on. I got these things I'm going to put in my pocket. I got to drive down here. I'm going to air up my tires. Here's my gloves. Here's my socks. I have it. Everything is so meticulously planned out. I'm so excited. And you'd think at 4 in the morning, anybody who knows me knows this isn't true, but you'd think for a normal human at 4 in the morning, it's low-level energy. My 4 o'clock energy is you think this is a lot? Wait till you get me at 4 a.m. I'm like, woo! Here we go! 88 miles, baby! We're going for it. And I was just so jacked. So I get out, I do everything, I go through the motions that I'd planned, I'd rehearsed 150 times in my head. And I finally get out on the road on my bike. And man, this feeling on your bike when the sun's not up, the stars are still out, I'm starting to see some little fingers of light coming over the mountains. I immediately start on a mountain pass. So, which I knew I'd planned that out. I was going to go over this huge mountain pass. And so, I get on my bike and there's no warming up. Your heart's cranked up right away when you get on your bike. But I'm so happy. I didn't put my headphones in. I just wanted to listen to the sound of the night. There's no cars. And I get out there. And the only thing, it was a little colder than I thought it would be. But I thought that through. So I had my coat on. And so everything was going as planned. And I'm just going up this hill. And I'm like, oh, my legs feel so good. I'm so in shape right now. This is so sick. 88 miles. I'm going to do this so easy. And so I get up, and I'm on my ride for about an hour until I finally hit the top of this peak. And immediately, when I got to the top of the mountain pass, I was a little bit concerned because I thought, first of all, I had done all this math, and I felt like I shouldn't be to the top of this pass for maybe another half an hour, maybe even more. And so either I'm going crazy fast, which means I'm not pacing well, or I'm lost. So I'm looking around, and I get to the top, and I'm looking around. I'm looking at just where I'm at. And there's a couple of different things that were like alarming to me. First, I get to the top of this pass, and you guys, it is gorgeous. I mean, I've got morning air, and it's just so beautiful. The air is windless. I mean, it's crisp, it's cool. And I'm looking straight down a mountain range that is just steep, and the grandeur. I mean, my natural tendency is to like erupt in praise towards God because it's just so gorgeous. But I was concerned because what I was looking at was a straight road along this mountain and along this mountain range, and I knew from my map and all of my like over preparation, that's not what this should look like. Like I should be going down like some switchbacks, and then I'm gonna hit this, and then I hit this gas station, and I didn't see any of that. So that was the first thing that concerned me. That really made me alarmed. So I reached into the back of my pocket, I grabbed my phone. My phone hadn't been on, I didn't have service. So I pull out my phone, I'm thinking, I really think that I'm lost. So I'm waiting for my phone to boot up, and I'm trying to wait for Google actually to tell me where I'm at, my Google Maps to tell me where I'm at. And I'm just looking around, and it's like the most confusing emotional state to be in because I am having this really big suspicion that I've actually just gone up the wrong mountain pass. I have this deep suspicion that I am seriously lost right now. But I also have another suspicion that, I'm not a suspicion. I'm looking around, and you guys, I am just jacked on how beautiful it is. It is just so, it just moves me thinking about it. I can just see the road, and it's like the sun is coming up over these mountains, and I can see the gold of the sun hit this like green valley, and it's just, I'm just like breathless as I'm watching this, and I'm just so confused. I think I'm lost, but this is so beautiful. And so finally my phone comes on. I look at my Google Maps, and I realize, oh my goodness, I am literally so far away from where I should be at. Somehow, as I was pulling in and making my camp spot, you don't really care that much, but I had gone on the wrong road. I ended up on, and it's just ironic, like I'm still on a mountain pass. So there was enough there that made me feel like I was in the right spot, but it was clearly the wrong road. I'm heading directly south, and I should have been heading directly west, which is a big difference. And the other thing, the thing on a bike, it's not like a car. Like you can just, I'm gonna go backtrack. You guys, I just probably used 1,000 calories climbing this mountain. Like I'm on the top of a mountain. So it's not like I can just go back down and just start over. It's not like that. I don't have that much that energy. I'm not in that good a shape. So I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I am so incredibly lost. And then in my mind, my wife and I had planned we were gonna meet in a certain place. So I'm going through all these scenarios. And really there were only two options to me at that point. The first option was, I could go back, I could backtrack, I'm gonna fly back down this mountain, but then I gotta get back in my car, I've gotta drive like probably 5 miles over, go up the next valley, and then still try to make it to Crested Butte. I mean, that's one option. And I knew with pretty much certainty that I wouldn't be able to do that. Because I knew that what had happened is the heat of the day was so significant, it would be so significant. By the time I made it over the right pass, I would just be burning alive. I'd be hot. There's also a crosswind that I knew. There was a south wind that would come that would make it really hard. I wouldn't be able to make it to my goal. And so I was like, that's one option, which is almost certain failure. Second option was to just keep going on the road that I was on and just figure it out as I go, which honestly for me was a little bit terrifying because here's the thing. I just told you how much I prepared on the other route. I'm looking at a straight road down a beautiful valley. I look at my Google, and I can tell that if I take this road, this has just added 40 miles. 40 miles on a bike is a long ways. 40 miles to my route. I don't know the elevation profile, so I can kind of do mental math and assume that I'm going to have to go over another mountain pass because I just went the wrong way. I'm going to have to cross back somewhere. So I'm just doing some quick mental math and trying to figure out what's going on. And all along, I'm thinking, there's not really a good option here. I mean, this one is pushing me. This one's almost certain failure, the first option. The second option is so mysterious that I just don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it. So it wasn't like a real long thought out process. I literally shot a text to my wife and said, use the Stalker app. We have one of those GPS apps that tells you where you're at. We call it the Stalker app. And I said, use the Stalker app, just drive to me. Just, she's like 3 hours away. I said, just figure out where I'm at. I'm gonna lose service, but just drive to where I'm at on the GPS thing. And I take off my coat, put it in there, and I just go down this road on the backside of this mountain pass with literally no clue where I'm going or what it's gonna actually look like. And you guys, I was just writing my notes for this and just was crying in a coffee shop. Just on my bike, haven't prepared, don't know what it looks like, just me and my bike. There's not one car as far as I can see in front of me, and I'm watching the sun come up over these mountains. And for Tanner Peake, how I am, I mean, there is a sensation that I can't communicate to you. And I guess what the sensation was as I'm going down this road is that I felt like the Lord was just on a bike right next to me. And he was just like, yeah, we're doing it, right? Yeah. And I'm just biking down this road, feeling the pleasure of God with literally no certainty of where I'm going. And that of my entire sabbatical, that might be the most profound. It wasn't like some quiet time with Jesus. It was just this overwhelming sense that I'm okay because I'm with you. I'm all right. And the truth is, even in the flesh, I wasn't really okay. But the spiritual encounter made me feel like I was okay. You can see from my notes, if you're committed to a journey with a friend, all that matters are a smile and a deep sense that you're okay. Listen, so many of us, I think especially because of our age, we start to look at life like a destination. Like I'm going to be this, it's like I want to be the head of every home for Christ, or I want to be a missionary in Saudi Arabia, or I want to be this, or I want that. And you think that there's going to be like a day that you arrive, like a destination. It's not so different than my bike ride in that there's a place that you've set ahead in almost an arbitrary way. Like, I think that's where the Lord would want me to be at. And you set that so clear. And really, again, not so different than me and my little stupid bike ride story. You start to obsess about that. I got to do this. I've got to do this. I've got to get this education. I've got to go to the ag school. I've got to do this. I've got to tell my parents this. I got to not do this. I got to And you start to think and you obsess and you go through all the motions. And listen, I don't want to invalidate destination because I do actually think destination is really important. And I think it is really God's heart. But I also know at 35, just even in my young age, that destination gets adjusted quite a few times. I'm looking over at Lou, and I think Lou would probably tell you in the course of his life, his destination, his GPS has probably changed 50 times in his life. That you thought you were going there, but the Lord wanted you to go there. And you didn't know it at the time. You thought you knew where you're going, and you'd planned really good, but all of a sudden, the GPS coordinate changes, and now I have to do a full reroute, and now I'm going over there. And about the time you get there, the Lord's going to say, gotcha, you're going over there. That is my experience. I'm not that old, but that is my experience. And I guess what I would want to encourage, I would want to deposit, and maybe this is only meaningful in 10 years from now, is that don't sign up for just a destination. I'm not against signing up for destination. Missions, even a place in missions, sign up for a journey. Sign up for a bike ride as the sun comes up with a friend. Sign up for a long-term relationship with someone who loves you. Again, the most profound time, I've been almost off work for four months right now. My most profound time is me on my stupid little bike driving and the image of Jesus riding a road bike next to me, just smiling, didn't say a thing. Just like huh? Sign up for a journey like that. Because you want to know what? Then if you're in Nepal, you can look over and he's going, huh? Am I right? Huh? Good. Way to go, Amy Dan. I mean, that's what he's saying. And you're good. But then if you end up and you're a stay-at-home mom or you got to go get a job and you're roofing or something like that, you're still good. He's still going, Isaac, am I right? My guy. Yeah? Huh? Sign up for a journey with a friend. I think what's so profound about a journey with a friend is that it's about knowing that you're okay. You're all right. Change is going to happen. Life is going to change. It's going to whip you around. But you need to know that there's a God, there's a Father, there's a friend, there's a brother, however you identify with the Lord, that is actually right there with you and you cannot add to his love. You cannot go today, you cannot go and add on. You can't, it's like your CV or your job portfolio. You can't go add things to your portfolio that please God. Yeah, God, I don't know if you knew this, but I launched the Oikos initiative, trying to reach every home in 20 years. And listen, God loves my faith, but he doesn't love me more because of that. I think he goes, you're nuts. You're crazy. I made you like that. I love you, buddy. But he doesn't. But I don't think he loves me more. And you know what? Signing up for a program, marrying the right person, none of those things, they're not gonna ever make you more lovable. You know, your sin can't separate you from God. This is Romans 8. What can Paul, you know, it's kind of at the end of this, it's kind of the crescendo in a way of Romans, and it goes off into this worshipful kind of prose. He says, what can separate us from God's love? Not life or death. Nothing in the world can separate you from God's love. That means you can't add anything to it, but it also means you can't take something away from it. Your failure does not intimidate God. Maybe you're sitting here and go, Tanner, I feel just so normal, and you know, I just feel like I'm so insignificant. You know, I've really never been able to achieve that whole lot. I just fail at everything I'm doing. Did you know that right now, God loves you as much as he loved the most successful, the Apostle Paul, or whoever you think is at the top of the spiritual pyramid, whoever that person is, God loves you just as much right now in your failure, your self-identification with your own failure. He loves you just as much as that person at the top of the pyramid. You have to listen to me. You have to hear what I'm saying. You cannot sign up for a calling, for a job, for a missions task, for anything because you're trying to earn God's love. You cannot do that because you're setting yourself up for disillusionment. And when that season changes, because God's gonna do it, I promise you, when that day happens, you're gonna just go back and you're gonna revert and say, my turkey got lost. My turkey's lost. God, I better become a criminal now. You know, this is just me now. I'm cussing Tanner. Truth be told, I cuss quite a bit and I feel like I'm on the right path, but probably invalidated everything I just said. Maybe Zach, you could come. No, I'm serious. I just got to shut it down. No, come. I'm dead serious. I told you. Troy said it well. I told you, the most authentic version of me always. This is what I want to leave with you. Is maybe, I don't know if that tool helps you today, or those waypoints on your map are going to help you today. I'm not sure. I genuinely don't know. But maybe you throw them in your backpack, or you throw them in the back of your mind or back of your heart, and you revisit those when you go back to school or you go back to your job, and you think, man, this little spaz of a guy told me, he told me that at the end of the day that we're all blind. We're like blind guys, and that we're just doing our best, and that my job today is to be honest with God and be honest with it. He's the one that can heal me. He's the one that can fill this hole in my heart. That you're blind. When you go back to your school or whatever it is, that you know, listen, I don't need to fall into the camp of spiritual pride, that I need to go low. I need Jesus more than I've ever needed him before. If you just cry out every day, Son of David, have mercy, breathe in and breathe out the mercy of God, listen, your life will be transformed by the gospel. Lord, mercy. I just crying out during worship. Lord, mercy on me. Tanner Peake right now. Mercy, God, I need you. I'm the blind guy. Jesus, put your hands on my eyes. So that I hope that you go home with that point fixed in your mind. The second point being, listen, in life, the turkey comes and the turkey goes. It's a weird thing to say. You get the thing, and then the thing goes away. And as you do that, as that happens, that's a natural part of life. As that happens, do you know what's not going away? Your love's secure, your Father's secure love for you. That as life ebbs and flows and the blessings come and the hard times of suffering come, you have a Father with arms that are open. He's kind. Maybe for some of you, that's radical. That would be for me. My Father was not kind. My Father, when he opened his arms up, that meant abuse, literally meant abuse. Maybe some of you feel like that. You need to know that there's a Father who, when he opens his arms to embrace you, it's kind touch. It's a loving touch. It's an open touch. It's a merciful touch. It's a bearing with you touch, not a judging you and putting you down touch. So when you go back, remember that you have that. You have a home and you can run home to it. Third, listen, sign up for a journey. I mean, there's gonna be so much conversation in your life as especially at your age, about destination. That's great. Sign up for some destinations too. That's fine. Just hold them pretty loose because the Lord's going to tear them out of your hands. But sign up for a journey. Sign up for a relationship. Sign up for you. I want to talk about relational language. Sign up for someone who's going to be with you. You know that you can't fail. You can't add to his love, and you can't take away from it. Sign up for that kind of constant love, the smile and the thumbs up that tells you that you're okay. You're okay. Did you know that? It doesn't matter what you do, you're okay today. Not because I said that, because he says that about you. Can you just stand up, please? I'm not sure if that was conveyed clearly or not, but that's okay because we got Zach. No, we have the Holy Spirit. This is what I want to do. I don't have a real articulate call. I don't even know if I'm over time. I think I probably am. But what I want you to do is just to put your hands out and just ask the Lord to be near to you. I think Zach, I don't know if you sing whatever you want, but just something about being near to the Lord. Ask the Lord to come and to remind you of his love. Ask the Lord to deposit in your heart a certainty that his love is secure. You do not have to perform for him today. You are loved.